Good morning, everybody. I wanted to devote today's video to something that is a really, really important process in the process of writing essays, and that is kind of our proofreading step before we submit the final product. So if you look under Google Classroom, I'm pulling up English here, but this should be under every single class, or sorry, my freshman English. You should see underneath class resources this tab that's titled Put Your Essays Under the Radar. And once you click on that Google Doc that is underneath that tab, this will appear. And essentially, guys, RADaR is an acronym. So we have our first draft written for our essay. However, we should not just submit that first product. Before we submit, we should always, always, always put our essays underneath the radar. So what does radar actually mean? Well, the table on my screen kind of shows it for you. So sometimes in our essays, we need, after we read our first draft, we found that we need to replace some things. Sometimes words that are really overused, like things and stuff and very and stuff like that, we kind of need to replace with a more academic or better word. Uh, Sometimes we need to add some stuff. Sometimes we need to kind of add a little bit more descriptive language. Sometimes we need to add just some new information just so our clarity is a little bit better. Opposite of that, sometimes we got to delete some stuff, right? Sometimes we wrote something that isn't really related. Sometimes that we wrote sentences that sound good, but they don't really mix well together. Sometimes we repeat ourselves way too much. Sometimes we just add stuff that doesn't need to be in there altogether. Okay. Finally, we have our last R, which is reorder. Sometimes we need to flip some sentences in order for the structure to be a little bit better. Sometimes we need to just make sure that our details are in the right structure so they make the most coherent type of paragraph. Okay, so I have some examples down here of each letter for that acronym, kind of showing what a sentence looks like before I put it under the radar and what it looks like after I put it under the radar for each section of that acronym. So I didn't want to just show you this. I actually wanted you to wanted uh, to show you guys what this process actually looks like in action, right? So even though you can't see me anymore, you can still hear me and you can still see what I'm about to do. So just a heads up, guys. This is a writing sample from a student sample that I got a while back, that whenever I sat down and graded this, I could tell that this student did not put this under the radar. And you will see that if they would have put it under the radar, it would have gotten probably not only a better grade, but it just would have been a more effective piece of writing in general. Okay. So what you're actually going to see on the screen, guys, is applying this acronym to this student's writing sample. Okay, I might not hit every single part of RADaR, but I am going to hit the parts that really stand out to me the most. Okay, and you guys will actually be able to see the changes that I make to this writing sample as I'm making it in real time. Okay, so I sit down and I read this writing sample. And I can tell just off of this very first sentence, we got some issues. Okay, so you can read it for yourself. I'm not going to read it for you. Uh, One thing that I noticed right off the bat is that it's missing a comma here because they're separating a independent clause from a dependent clause. So we need a comma probably after hatter. And you can see that I added the comma because it's in red. All right. I also noticed that this part right here, which in sense is quite self-explanatory, I noticed that that doesn't really make a lot of sense. You probably will instantly think of the line from the movie Alice in Wonderland, which in sense is quite self-explanatory. So I might just delete that altogether. And also, this isn't just a line from Alice in Wonderland. This is actually a character from Alice in Wonderland. You will instantly probably think of the character from the movie Alice in Wonderland. Alice in Wonderland is also a movie, so it's a movie, so it has to be in italics. Since we're referring to an actual phrase here, mad as a hatter, that probably needs to be in quotes. The idiom's origin dates all the way back to the late 17th century and early 18th century. You will be surprised. So I noticed there that that sounds like the beginning of a new sentence. So I'm going to swap that comma with a period and capitalize that Y. You will be surprised how this out of the ordinary phrase was created. In all seriousness, where did the phrase as mad as a hatter come from? So, a couple things that stick out to me there. First of all, this phrase, in all seriousness, kind of bugs me a little bit because it's not like we were joking before this, right? So, what I'm probably going to do, I am going to just delete that phrase because it just sounds kind of odd. It kind of sounds like we were joking or weren't being serious before we said that phrase, and there's no indication that that was happening. So, I might delete that. And also, it seems kinda strange to me that you will be surprised how this out of the ordinary phrase was created. Where did the phrase "as mad as a hatter" come from? Those sounds like they should be switched, so I'm gonna reorder that, okay? So I'm going to cut there and actually end on the line that says, "You will be surprised how this out of the ordinary phrase was created." Another thing that I'm noticing up on top here, you probably will instantly think, um, I'm probably going to get rid of this word instantly, just because you probably will instantly think that is kind of a weird sort of sequence of words there. I'm going to get rid of probably and replace it with perhaps, because that's a more stronger word. And what I'm probably gonna do here is just because it's looking a little thin since we've taken some stuff out now, I'm probably going to be talking about this character Matt as a header just for maybe like one more sentence, all right? Just to kind of like frame for the audience what that character was like and why they're mad as a header. Okay. So just from what we did, and you can see all of the changes that I did here off to the side, you can see that just by putting my essay under the radar, looking for things that needed replaced, some reordered, need to be deleted, need to be added, and stuff like that, it's a lot better of a paragraph. Okay. And I'm noticing right here that I probably, since in this sentence I said how old it is, we really don't know even after that sentence still where it comes from. So I might add the word however. Where did the phrases minus header come from? Just to kind of say that, hey, we know how old it is, but where did it actually come from? So I might add the transition word there, however, just to state for my audience that the purpose of this essay is going to be uh, origins and stuff like that. Okay. So moving on to this paragraph, I noticed right off the bat that since this is named for an actual disease, it needs to be in all caps. And it looks like the writer here probably meant to start a new sentence there. That doesn't need to be its own sentence. So we created a new sentence here, beginning with the word hats. And then we had mercury nitrate. Actually, how about we do this? Instead, because that sentence is kind of short, comment there as hats were made using mercury nitrate. So we got this sentence here. Using this product later played out the role of making someone start shaking, making the person look crazy or insane. This is problematic for a couple of reasons. So we have here, I don't like the played out the role of, because that doesn't really make sense to me. Using, how about instead of this product, because it's not really a product that we're using, how about we do using such chemicals? How about would cause the hat makers to shake and act strangely so that sentence is looking a little bit better. How about instead of so much, because I'm not really a fan of beginning a sentence with the word so, after continued exposure to the mercury, about the effects of the mercury nitrate. So we've kind of already said that it made them look crazy or insane. So I feel like here we're being a little bit repetitive, caused mean odd and mean behavior. Mercury nitrate would further deteriorate the mental functioning for the hat makers and even lead to death. And then all of the people who had the cases were the ones that were wearing hats. That kind of sticks out like a sore thumb, and that's kind of redundant because obviously that someone who was working with this stuff would get crazy, and people who weren't working with stuff weren't being crazy. So I'm just going to delete that sentence altogether. Okay. So I could sit here and add a lot more to these paragraphs. However, I just wanted to show you guys, and you can see just exactly how much I fixed in this piece of writing, okay? Just how much can actually change whenever you put your essays underneath the radar. And even though it might not be a perfect writing example, we took a first draft writing, and after we put it under the radar, we produced a much better piece of writing. Is it still perfect? Absolutely not. However, it could be the difference between a poorer grade and a grade that is worth its stuff. Okay. So I would highly suggest, guys, that before you submit your writing assignments, you absolutely need to put your stuff underneath the radar. Okay. You guys have a essay due tomorrow, all right? And if you have any problems whatsoever with the essay itself or anything pertaining to the radar, please let me know.